welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Plantastic Events podcast. I am here with one of the organizers of Triangle Veg Fest, and we are here to talk about events post-pandemic. So would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Helene Greenberg. I am the executive director of Triangle Veg Fest, which is now newly named Veg Fest Expos.
Oh, very good.
Haven't completely put that out there yet, but I guess we'll start here.
We're launching the rebrand right now.
Yes, right now, this is it. It's kind of already we are already Veg Fest Expos, but I officially filed to have the name changed.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
Thank you.
So when did you start working with the festival, and what's kind of your background in event planning?
Well, that's an interesting question because I don't have a background in event planning. I just have a personality that kind of works for doing something like this. So I started in 2014 and created Triangle Veg Fest to produce and create a festival for my local community in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I reached out to the community and I said, "Hey, do you want to have a festival?" And they said, "Yes." So I said, "All right, I'll organize it." I'm from New York. I've been going to the New York Vegetarian Festival, which is all vegan. And I kind of decided that I wanted to bring something like that down here. And they were all for it. So I was in the middle of getting my master's degree because I have a master's in education and school counseling. And I had about 2.5 month break before I had to do a full-time internship, unpaid. So what do you do with time? Like I can't go get a job for 2 months and then stop and be like, oh hey, now I've got 4 months of full-time work to finish my degree. And in that 4 month period, the 2 months of break, and then like 2 months into my internship, we created the festival. And our first festival was like in October 2014, and we had like 2,000 plus people. We outgrew our venue. It was truly wanted and needed. And we just kind of been going from there. So 14, 15, 16, 17, moved it to Durham, and 17 from Raleigh, 18 in Durham, 19 in Durham, COVID. So it's where things sort of stopped. But I also in 2019 started adding other cities and other states.
Oh, nice. I feel like
Yes.
isn't that always the way that the best events are planned is when somebody just like sees a need in the community and wants to bring, a festival to, give something to the people around them. I feel like that's when the most wonderful community events are brought is when somebody who's passionate just kind of takes it upon themselves to bring something like that to the community. So that's really awesome.
I don't believe that the events should or could happen without the community. If they
Definitely.
don't want it, they won't come. And they also won't support it. You need volunteers, you need stuff to happen, you need people to help get the word out. And if the community isn't super excited, then it'll just flop. So I need a community if I go into a different city or a different state. I need that community to be like, yes, we want this here. Yes, we'll help make it happen. And I'm like, okay, because if I'm not living in that state or in that city, I need that support. And I'm willing to do it. Well, I was willing to do it. Now I'm kind of stepping back. I was willing to do it because they wanted it and needed it. And of course, the main thing for what Veg Fest Expos does is to educate the community on the benefits of a plant-based diet, about the animals, the health, and the planet. And that's the main reason for the festivals to happen, is to get that information out there, to reach people who aren't vegan, to help them understand why this is so important and how much of a difference it can make.
That's awesome. So when you first started planning the festival, did you imagine that it would get as big as it did, or did you have a plan, or were you just really passionate about the vegan diet?
It's like so interesting because in 2014, I saw this happen. And of course, I knew I was going to do it again in 2015. It almost killed me in 2015. That's how I learned a lesson of help. Can't do it alone. You need to bring other people and be open to that because I'm a little bit of a control freak. Much better now, 10 years later, but still it's difficult. So I've made a lot of apologies over the 10 years because of my personality, which also makes it hard. But in 2015, I think I wrote a business plan. And by the end of 2015, I completed everything on it.
Oh,
So one of them was a monthly market locally. So I started doing monthly market locally. And then obviously the annual festival. and then potentially like expanding to Wilmington, because in 2015, Wilmington, North Carolina asked me to come there. It came to fruition in 2018. Did I know that it was going to become what it has? Not really, but based on my personality, it probably makes sense because I'm a doer and I want to facilitate change. And one of the best ways to do that is for me, is to do the festivals. This is my activism. But also, what was happening is the vendors were going around and they were talking to other people and other organizers, and they were taking notice of what we were doing. And so when they didn't want to do their festivals anymore, they called me. And I said yes. And then I just last year and the year before, we did 10 cities in 5 states.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. And I feel like that's a lot of the events on our platform. That's usually how it goes, is they start off really small and it's just one person who's really passionate about an idea and they bring it to the community loves it, and then it just grows so exponentially from there. And coming along with that, you kind of mentioned this, is as you scale, it's really important that you get help and that you kind of get organized. And that's a topic that comes up in a lot of these podcast episodes when we're interviewing entrepreneurs who started their own event. And one of the most common questions I ask is just, what was the thing that really told you, okay, I need to get some help here. I need to figure out how we're going to scale this business. And was it, a gradual decision, or was it, and I find that this is the most common thing, like a brick wall moment where you just said, all right, we need to get some other people on board?
Yeah, 2015, I had somebody helping and they kind of bailed about a quarter way in. So I did it all. And back then I was recalling this the other day. It was my pen and paper time, like it was when your map was on a piece of paper, you're using Google to like create us, or Excel to create the spreadsheet of the vendors, and like marking them on the maps and having that at the event, and everything was like hand drawn pretty much. And I don't know. I don't honestly, a lot of lack of sleep happened then because there was so much to get done. I realized in 2015, I literally pulled out my phone when someone would call me about the event, and I would just put it in my back pocket and not answer. I said, I got us here. You all handle this now. I was done. I was absolutely done. My voice, my throat was like glass, and people brought me tea, and it was a lot because I scaled the event up from 2014 to 2015. We probably over doubled in vendor size, over doubled in space, probably tripled in space. And I mean, it was big. And then 2016, we got even bigger, but I had more help. And that's the difference. And then it just kind of people see a mission and they want to be part of this because of what's happening and how important veganism is, and they see the festivals as an avenue to reach people, and they see the change, and it's it makes me, it could bring tears to my eyes because this is my passion and they see that and they want to be a part of it,
Mhm.
so yeah, that's that brick wall moment. And let me tell you, people ask me all the time how I do this. How do you do 10 festivals in 5 states? You know what I say?
But
Technology.
that really is what I think, that really is the thing that kind of sets the bar these days for being able to scale an event, and without pulling your own air out. And I think, even as early as 2018, 2019, event technology started to really become the thing to have if you were organizing a large scale event. But it's so crazy how long it took to get to that place. And people have been running festivals and events literally for hundreds of years. Like even back in Roman times, I mean, there was festivals that they would run and vendor markets and everything. And so it's always been a part of our human history. And I find that so interesting. And it's almost like we're going through a second, industrial revolution or technological revolution that allows us to bring these amazing festivals to so many more people. And I think event technology has really just been what's been able to push this concept over the finish line of bringing these different festivals to people and being able to increase community engagement, especially in a time where community engagement was really low for a while with COVID. And so I'm happy that you've been able to utilize that to your advantage.
Yeah, when I found I was using Map Dynamics for a number of years, and Max reached out to me with Eventany, and I just flat out said no. I mean, I did, and then he showed me the platform, and I still said no because there was a piece that I didn't like about it. But then I kind of came to my senses at, I don't know, it's a year since it'll be almost a year that I've been on board. And I just came to my senses and I was like, what is wrong with you? I realized how much more money I was paying
Yeah.
for something that is not as superior of a product. And I say this, I mean, he worked hard. Max worked really hard to get me on board. And
Yeah.
then like once I like revisited it with him and I had a different mindset, I saw what the platform could do. And I've since then, like with Jennifer, how much more I've learned about what I can do with the platform. Like I have the volunteers through it.
Mhm.
Volunteers, my map, my vendors, and all the little things we're learning. I have a wish list of things, and there's a lot of those things are coming to fruition, which is amazing. And I love it. Like I absolutely love this platform. It blows away what I was using, like blows it away. And there are things that that platform had that this one doesn't, but there's really no comparison. And I signed up for 2 years and I wanted to sign up for 3. They wouldn't let me.
Let me just put a disclaimer out for everybody. We are not paying Helene.
No, not
This is
paying me at all.
not an advertisement, but I really appreciate that. And, you know, it always makes us feel good to hear about how our platform is helping people because that's like what we set out to do. You know, it wasn't really a money thing. It wasn't like our founders wanted to be millionaire billionaires, you know, by making an event planning software. I think there's probably easier ways to do that, to be honest, than making an event planning software. It was because our founder's sister was planning an event and she needed help. And our founder, you know, knew how to code a little bit. And so he just built her up something really quickly and it caught on with a lot of different people. And so we kept making improvements, making it better. And that's how we are where we are today, you know, almost by accident, to be honest.
Yeah, it's actually it's really cool because technology, like I said, I couldn't do this. I would still be up all night. I would I do have help. I do have a virtual assistant, Callie, who's extraordinary, and other people on marketing team that help us. But man, the vendors love the platform. The sign up, being able to log in and just find everything else and sign up for it and have everything. I have my master page, which I just told them to bookmark, which I'll put all the events on so they can just go there and see. I mean, thank you for making my life easier because when you do 10 festivals in a year in 5 states over the course of like 10 months, you need help. And that's basically how I'm able to do it. It's because I'm able to just send a link and say, hey, sign up. And this has made it even easier because people are signing up that I didn't even send a link to. And I get to look and see who they are and see if they fit the festival. And I love messaging. So my emails are no longer emails. I just message people, which drops into their mailbox, their inbox. And then they can, go onto the platform and write back. I can see if they've read it or not. These are things that just make it as easy on me as possible, means there's more that I can do.
Yeah.
There's stuff I can focus on. I can put my time in other areas because there's a lot of things. There's things like this. There's like, growing the business. I mean, even though it's a nonprofit, people think nonprofits, oh, it's just, I don't know why people think nonprofits aren't businesses.
Yeah, it
because
definitely
they are.
is. Yeah.
I mean, full-fledged with all the bills. Just because
Yeah.
it's a nonprofit doesn't mean we don't have all the bills that a for-profit business has. I do. So the need to make money is important. And that could like kind of segue into the difference between 2019 and COVID years and now post-COVID years.
Yeah.
2019 was like the glory year for festivals. It was it was the high point. People were coming out, people were spending money, the vendors were happy. It was for every single one of us. It was just like, ah, and then I had 6 festivals open by March 2020, and they were filling up, and then they weren't. So that
Yeah.
became an accounting nightmare. And then to save money, actually, somehow I convinced the city of Nashville, Tennessee to let me host an event in 2020.
Wow. How?
I don't know. It was outdoors, it had rules, mask, temperature checks. See, if I knew what I know now, like even the following year, I never would have done that. The
Right.
risk would have been too high because my team, we all stayed together without masks.
Right.
I
And that's
trusted them
what we
enough to,
knew at the time.
yeah, yeah, I trusted them enough to do the right thing to make sure I don't step on my dog. And none of us got sick.
Oh, wow.
Nobody got sick. It was small, like 35 vendors. The vendors were super appreciative because I was the only festival probably in 2020.
Right.
And the people came out, maybe it had to be over 2 days because it couldn't be a certain number of people in the same space, even though it was outdoors. And we temperature checked everybody. I did stages of people. It was a lot. But one thing I needed the people to do was to come out and buy, shop, spend money, because this is the start of years of people not making any money.
Mhm.
And they did. People were leaving with arms full of stuff. And granted, that festival obviously down in attendance because people obviously granted they were concerned, but they were also thankful to have it. So there we were, and there we were in 2020. And then the next year in 21, I did 6 festivals. Yeah, I
Wow.
did 6 in 21, I'm pretty sure. And
That
then
probably was a much needed, boost to the local economies too in those areas. Because when you think about how everything shut down, there was really just no money passing through anywhere. Anywhere local, at least, maybe some people were online shopping, from different
right.
places. But nowhere, none of the local businesses were, getting that income. And that's a very serious thing to happen, especially in smaller communities with local economies that really depend on, the summer festival season and vendors who that's their livelihood. And so, the balance between obviously wanting to be safe and making sure everybody's protected and taken care of, also making sure that people, can put food on their table and like buy clothes for their kids it's a hard line to walk. And I think that it's really admirable that you gave it a shot and, tried to make it work for these people because it was a nightmare to be completely honest for everybody.
It was definitely hard because then you have masks, and in 21, I just moved everything outside, inherently safer to be outside. Certain cities weren't allowing anything to happen. Like North Carolina, even though we're in the South, was pretty shut down. But I'm in the Southeast, and you know what the Southeast states are like? They don't care. So it was much easier to do festivals in the Southeast than California or New York because they were just shut. So I was like, well, nobody cares. Let's go do a festival. And people came out. I mean, it was slow going, and the vendors were like all for it. They also understood where we were at. We're at a time where, and it's not just whether that's going to impact people coming, it's fear.
Mhm.
And thankfully, it was very important that I stressed to the vendors, if you don't feel well, even the attendees, if you don't feel well, if you think you don't feel well, if you've been exposed to COVID, if you think you've been exposed to COVID, just stay home.
Mhm.
There'll be another festival. I promise. We'll have another festival.
Yeah, and
Just stay home. And they did.
yeah. Well, that's good. And I think that, you know, it really requires quick thinking on your part, especially for just trying to put all of that together. So as the pandemic kind of progressed, and we kind of got further along in it, the vaccine started coming out, everything. Did you see the attendance in your events start to ramp up significantly, or was it more gradually over time?
It depends on the city.
Really? I
It
love.
depends on the city. I'm in a lot of smaller cities in the Southeast. So the larger cities like Atlanta, their first festival, like full festival back, like where it's indoors, outdoors type thing, was pretty well attended. Not as well attended as it had been in previous years, but it's still, I think now things are coming back. I mean, 21 and 22, again, I was one of the few people that was still doing these because 21, 6 festivals, 22, 10 festivals, 23, 10 festivals. This year is the first year where there's like everybody's back to doing festivals. Like all of us who did it, most of them are all back. So now there's like that competition again of dates and where the vendor's going to go. They have more choices to go where they're going to go. And people wise, certain cities are great and then some cities aren't. And
Mhm.
that's kind of what's leading to my 2025, where I'm going to go from here. I scaled back this year. I'm going to scale back even more next year. My goal is to use the technology and to use social media and to use outreach to take certain cities and just grow them from, say, like a 2,000, 2,500 person, 3,000 person event and grow them to like a 6 to 10,000 person event
Nice.
and build them that way. I think that would make more traction. I think I'd reach more people. I'll be closer to home. And that's, I mean, I don't just go to the festival. We have a full-fledged retail booth at the event. I make my shirts and bags in-house. I have a printing company
Oh, wow.
inside my house too, because that's why you're like, well, where do you think you were gonna go? Well, this is what I do. So full-fledged printing, do it in-house, full retail booth. We bring the tents, we bring the tables, we bring a whole family fun zone. I have a 10 by 20 storage unit plus stuff in my house. I literally have a festival. I have generators. I have everything. So it's 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 a lot and I am burnt out.
Yeah,
That's kind of where I'm at. I'm like completely burnt out. So now like little things are bigger things than they used to be. So I have to do, if I don't make changes, I'm going to stop.
right.
And stopping would hurt more people,
r-
including myself, but it'll hurt a lot of people. Some of the vendors joked around, like they're burnt out too. And they just said, well, if you stop doing this, you're like 25% of my festivals,
Right.
right? So if I stop doing it, someone doesn't take over that city, then that's gone. And right now, my goal is just to keep doing, get back to like being happy about doing this
Right.
and going forward. Because right now someone says, what's your favorite city? And I say I hate them all. So it's kind of where that's I think that's kind of normal. I'm finding that most of my vendors are feeling the same way.
Right. Kind of segueing into the vendors a little bit. We kind of touched a little bit on how it can be a lot of pressure to run a festival and know that you are in a way or partially responsible for, these vendors' incomes. And also you touched a little bit on the competition that you see between other events and trying to get vendors. How do you kind of move within that competition? Is there anything in specific that you do to try and generate more vendors for your event, or do you rely mostly on repeat vendors? Um, and do you ever look at expanding and bringing more vendors on?
My vendor list is over 2,000
Wow.
over the 10 years. So always growing.
Hmm.
We have a good reputation. When I say I care about the vendors, that I would like give my heart and soul to them, I would. And
Hmm.
they know that. And it kind of helps us stand out from other organizers, other producers of festivals. And that's kind of tuning my own horn. But if you ask them, they would say it.
Yeah.
So one vendor said to me recently that she'll come everywhere that I go. And it doesn't matter if she makes money or not, because I do so much to support them that she wants to give back to me.
Hmm.
And that kind of encapsulates it right there. And that's amazing. I
Yeah.
worked so hard to do this that to hear it back, to like have someone acknowledge is it's heartwarming. because it's hard work. I make it look easy,
Right.
except when I'm like running around like ranting
Mhm.
because there's times where it's like super stressful. Like we did a weekend a couple of years ago because of a hurricane. I had to move two festivals in the same weekend, two states, 3.5 hours apart. We
Wow.
did Chattanooga and Nashville in the same weekend.
Oh my gosh.
It was uh oof, it was a lot. It
Yeah.
was a lot. Asheville's my largest festival, soul sucking festival, and Chattanooga went from 2 days to one. And it was the only thing I could do because a hurricane made me move it,
Right.
for the safety of everybody, which was the right call. But one thing that I did is I did a Zoom call with the vendors and I said, hey, here's what's going on. Like if I'm saying I think we should do this, then that I think we should do this. Because I'm not one to be like, oh, there might be weather. So
Mhm.
let's just change the date. No, it's really hard. It's really
Yeah.
hard to take 100 vendor festival and drop it a couple of weeks later. Super hard because then some couldn't make it, some could make it now. So it was just a whole shuffle. And that carried forward to the next year as well, some to the following year. But I will do everything that I can. They're family in the good and the bad and the ugly, because that's what family is. The vendors are family to me, and they know that, and they know I'll help them if I can help them because I can't do this without them.
And that's so important. I feel like this is a really valuable insight for our listeners who are, just starting to plan events or maybe have planned a couple of festivals and are looking to expand. Something that we've found through all the events on our platform and talking to a different event organizers is that vendors really make the event. And when I go on site for events that are using EventMe, vendors really are the most important, or at least one of the most important factors of what makes an event shine. And having a good relationship with your vendors is really a top priority that I feel like sometimes event organizers overlook a little bit. And I love how you're, really demonstrating how important that is, because when you have a great relationship with your vendors, it just really helps grease the wheels for everything else to run smoothly, you know?
Right. And it's not about the money. Money's important, like we all have to make it, but I'm not going to drop 8 candle makers at my festival.
Mhm.
I'm not going to do that. I will tell a vendor, like I have one right now that I'm going to have to say no to because I have too many of what she does or what they do, because I'm not sure if it's a she. So I'm not going to just take your money
Right.
for the sake of taking your money, because what I don't want is at the end of the festival for you to bitch at me because there were 5 of you and it's too many and nobody did well because there were 5 of you, or two did well and three did. I mean, I don't want to hear it. So the best thing I can do, and if there's somebody who's kind of like unique, like I've had a situation where it's someone who did plants and
Mhm.
somebody wanted to come and like bring like their little cute little van with plants.
Mhm.
I wrote to them to say, hey, you're signed up. How do you feel if this person comes?
Yeah.
And there's no pressure there. You can tell me yes or no. I'm going to do what's best for the festival. And the vendor said I would prefer they not be there. And wrote back, I said, look, wrote to my vendors already signed up. They prefer you not be there. Next year, sign up first.
Yeah, and that's so important. And we talk about this a lot in the other episodes of our podcast and in webinars we do, especially on the vendor management side, is how important it is to diversify your vendors. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, because there are some event organizers, and I don't think it's a malicious thing or like a money grabbing thing, but it's kind of basic. Well, maybe, but it's kind of basic business knowledge, well, if someone's offering you money, you should take it. For someone who's new to the game, it seems like a good idea. But then, like you said, when you have 8 different candle makers at an event where there's not that many people who want to buy candles, no one's going to make any money. And so it's really important to diversify and make sure that you're choosing a good selection of people. And especially location, I think, is very important, and making sure that you spread people out so that there's not 2 different, coffee carts next to each other. If you have them at opposite ends of the event, depending on how big, that could be fine. But you don't want to have 5 different jewelers, all in a row, because that's just going to increase hostility, probably increase competition. And, no, people are going to get decision fatigue. It's just going to be not the best way for everybody to make as much money as they can and be successful. And so I think that it's kind of counterintuitive for a lot of new event organizers to think that way until they do it once and it doesn't work out that well. And then they see that this didn't really work out. And I'm
Oh,
glad
it's super
that.
huge. You have to be considerate of these people, and also the attendees as well. They want to see diversity, and they want to have a festival that has, they want to see a whole bunch of stuff. They don't want to see the same of everything. And for competition, I'm not in competition with other producers of vegan festivals. We're all in this together, and we all, for the most part, we all support one another in all across the country. And I'm more than aware of, like, someone can say like June 2nd is Asheville Vegan Fest or Asheville Spring Fest, but June 1st and 2nd is also Lancaster Veg Fest in Pennsylvania. We are splitting vendors. They
Mhm,
have a fantastic festival.
mhm,
Asheville's a fantastic festival. It's a Sophie's choice. Which one do you go to? They're probably going to go to that one because it's 2 days.
mhm. That
And
makes,
I'm okay, and that's okay. I have a fall one.
yeah,
They're all gonna come to the fall one, so it's
right.
like it's all good. And we do like lean on each other, and we try to do what's right for each other and kind of support each other. But at the same time, a festival like Iowa, Idaho, or something reached out. They have a festival on June 2nd. And they said, hey, if you like post ours, we'll post yours. And I said, I can't do that. It's super confusing.
Yeah,
It's the same date. It's really confusing.
yeah.
Even though you're so far away, I have to post my festival because it's on the same day. Now, if it happened to be like a completely separate weekend, it also gets confusing when I start posting about other festivals because I do so many. Suddenly people think it's mine.
Mhm,
And I'm like, not mine. I'm just supporting. I'm like, I have nothing to do with it. I'm just saying, hey, go support them. I
mhm.
used to be like, I wanted to be the largest vegan festival in North Carolina, and I was heading that direction until I realized that Raleigh Durham isn't large enough to
Right.
like Charlotte. Well, since then, where I live in Wake County is now bigger than Mecklenburg County, where Charlotte is. But oh, sorry, but before it was like, well, do we have the people to really sustain, like in Manhattan they can get 10,000, 15, 30,000 people to come to an event. They can do that in LA. That's what Jessica does. In Atlanta they can do that. Asheville does it because it's destination. But not to say that Raleigh Durham isn't a beautiful area and
Right.
it isn't great, but it's still not an area with people who have like a ton of disposable income, right? Even it's less to live down. It's not as expensive to live down here, but at the same time, it's not an overly wealthy area. So people actually pick and choose what they want to do with the funds that they have.
Mhm,
And that means that, you know, a festival where you're really looking at people, local people kind of making it and building it
mhm,
without people coming from outside and
mhm.
coming to it. I mean, you're looking at like a few thousand people
Right.
as opposed to like Los Angeles, where you could have
Mhm.
30,000 people.
Right.
So it makes a huge difference. Oh my dog, it's like,
Yeah.
you gotta see.
And I think that's so important too, is to consider the area of where you are planning to host a festival because, I'm from a small town in Michigan and I've seen, people host festivals there with like really bougie, like artisan crafts. And I'm like, people here are not going to buy this. You're not going to make money selling these kinds of things to the people who are living here. That's just not going to work. You would be much more successful selling like smaller handmade goods, getting vendors that are, just selling things that people can afford and people are going to find use for in their own homes and in their lives. And I think that that's a very important factor that a lot of event organizers don't always consider, especially when they're just starting out, because you think, well, I just want to put on the best festival. I want to have the best vendors who are selling, the coolest stuff. It's like, well, the festival is made by people going. So
Yes.
people are
That's
gonna,
really important because
yeah,
you're saying we can't do it without vendors. I look at it like this: vendors are here and attendees are like right below,
yeah,
like very close second. Can't do it without either.
right. You can't,
Like, yeah, right. I can get the vendors to a festival, I can get them signed up, but if it rains,
right.
I wish people would come out in the rain.
I know. The rain isn't
I
so bad.
it's once a year. I mean, and we have to like I have to work in that. I have
Mhm,
to work in heat and humidity and rain, cold.
mhm,
I have to work in all of that.
mhm.
And when you don't come out, nobody makes money.
Right.
And I hate to keep bringing it back to money, but it's about these people. I keep saying I'll go live. I said my vendors know I will go to bat.
Hmm.
They look like they're having a lot of fun. Some of them are super happy and jovial, but they paid to be there and they need to make money.
Yeah.
So don't go up to them and tell them why you won't buy stuff from them. Walk around a festival. Here's the way to Veg Fest. Here's the way to festival.
Hmm.
Do a complete walk of the whole event
Hmm.
before spending money.
Yeah.
Because what you do when you impulse, you go, oh, I really want that. Then you go to the next one, you're like, oh, if I hadn't bought this, I wouldn't buy, it's like, well, wait, like do
Mhm.
that with the food too. Look at everything you have and then make a plan of action,
Right.
right? We have a live vendor map on Eventany. You can look at the map, you can see who's going to be there. They're kind of in the right spaces, like on the map, because everything changes day of. So
Mm.
just make that plan of action.
Yeah.
It's super important because then you don't, because the people do, they go up to some of my vendors and they say things like, I would have bought this if I hadn't already purchased like this one. And the vendors are like,
It's like, okay, thanks. Like,
especially when they're having a bad day,
yeah.
it really like just it's like stabs their heart.
Yeah.
And they share that with me and I feel terrible. So I feel so terrible at times I've given vendors money back
Oh, well,
because
we actually just like literally just a couple weeks ago for our April releases, to kind of combat this as well and allow attendees to make a plan. We are now allowing vendors to set up their virtual shop, on Eventney, and their products will be listed when people buy tickets. So people, when they buy tickets for the event, can kind of see like what's going to be there. If someone has products listed on their shop, they can see, well, what kind of, things can I kind of buy there? And they can look at these vendors and look at their shops beforehand and kind of see what everybody has to offer, like on their couch.
oh, that's a great idea. The problem is getting the vendors to do that. Some
Yeah.
of them have said they'll set up their shop, but I mean, it's hard.
Mhm.
It's super hard to get people to do extra work.
Yeah, we have
They're
friends
always so
that
busy.
poor Will and Jen, I mean, that's like their full-time thing is getting vendors to set up their shop. And they do tons of webinars and, tutorials and everything. And it's just, you got to convince people that it's worth it. And I think we're starting to get there now because other vendors have done it and are seeing, higher sales and are making more money from having their shop open on Eventney. So it is kind of just that snowball effect, just like how, getting vendors to work at a new event that just opened up. It's going to be hard the first year because they don't know if they're going to make any money. But if they go and they make money, then they're going to want to come back the next year. And, while we do say, events are all about the community and it's great, it is about making money because this is their livelihood and this is how they make a living. And it is expensive to buy booths at a lot of these events and they need to find a return on their investment. And if they don't get that, then they're not going to come back next year. And
And
that's,
also vendors have to understand marketing wise, it's not always about the day of the event.
Mhm.
You don't know because if you bring business cards and or make sure you have a way for people to sign up for a mailing list. If you don't have a mailing list yet, it's a good place to start one.
Right.
And you can even like say, hey, and I had a mailing list created for years before I actually sent out an email. It was really silly. I was like, sign up for my mailing list. I was like, a newsletter will get out to you eventually. That newsletter now goes out weekly to over 9,000 people with like a 50% plus open rate.
That's fantastic.
And that's I write it. So it like every time someone like literally that's something that can make me cry because I feel obligated to write it weekly, but it's like me sending you a letter every week.
Right.
You
Exactly.
never know what I'm going to write in it. It's had personal stuff, it's had professional stuff, it's had like, let's just talk about this today stuff.
Mhm.
And also that's the best place to see like what's going on. Like there are things in there that people know about that I haven't posted anywhere,
Mhm.
like 2025 dates.
Right.
They're in my newsletter that went out yesterday. There's nowhere. It's been hinted at on socials, but it hasn't been posted.
Yeah. So if you're a vendor who lives in the Southeast area, sign up for the Triangle Veg Fest newsletter, is what I'm hearing.
Oh yeah, and you can easily do that. We have a pop-up on our website on vegfestexpos.com, and you can just like sign if once you sign up for that, it should hopefully get you into my mailing list. I don't even know. But we, yeah, it's been an interesting year because we had all brand new marketing, brand new logos, brand new website. And of course, Eventany is new for like this past year. and it's gone really well with the festivals. And I asked the vendors what they think, and they really like it. Some have trouble because some people are just technologically
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
They just can't do it. So we just do whatever we can to help them, or Jennifer does, because is what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
I I can't be, I can't, I actually do Zoom. I will get on the phone and FaceTime with somebody, especially a vendor, to get them signed up. But it's really easy.
Yeah.
It's really easy. And like that, like we said, the vendors also need to understand that it's a sales event, and
Hmm.
I don't want to see a chair in your booth.
Yeah.
You'd be standing all day.
Yeah, exactly. Because it is important, you feel a responsibility for people to make money, but it's also, unfortunately just about a skill set as well, like on the vendor side and being able to advertise and market and move with the times and know your audience. And
Talk
it's,
with people.
mhm,
Talk with people without it feeling like you're like skeezy, salesy, or creepy.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
a skill. And that way I say to them, like when they're like, oh, and I'm like, well, just talk to people. Because
Mhm,
like I can say, it'd be like, oh, I really love your sunglasses, Kat. And
mhm.
you're like, thank you. And you're like,
Yeah,
and maybe that might lead to, well, I bought them at, and you're like,
yeah,
oh, like over there at that vendor. Oh, really? Let me take your picture. Like,
exactly.
you just don't know where the
Yeah,
conversation will go. And of course, you have to do it in a genuine way. Like if you actually have to like the sunglasses, not just
yeah.
say it in that sense. So I'm always, when I'm at the booth, I'm always like observing and talking to people about who they are, what they are. And of course, I can answer any question about veganism, and of course, anything about my booth or the festival. I had people ask me in Columbia a couple weekends ago some really important questions as to why the venue changed,
Hmm.
why it was smaller this year, you know, like things that they noticed
Yeah,
and there were good reasons for, which they didn't know,
right.
right? But I explained it to them. They were like, thank you so much for taking the time to explain why we're at a different venue. And the
Yeah.
other venue wasn't going to allow food trucks.
Oh, well, yeah, that's pretty important for a vegan festival, I would say. Pretty top.
Important for any festival.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I said, once I saw that, I had to find a different spot. And here's
Yeah,
where we landed.
definitely.
So
Yeah. And in terms of advertising and just marketing at your booth, I go on site to a lot of events on our platform, and one of the things that I do a lot is interview our vendors for social media just to kind of get their story out there a little bit. And I also just sometimes walk around booths, because I'm at the event, I'm gonna go like hang out, buy
yep.
a couple things. And I've walked through so many, I mean thousands at this point of vendor booths at events that I've gone to for fun in my own life and for work, working with Eventney. And it's very clear the difference between someone who is like a natural salesman, like a natural people person, and who you can tell they're very successful in this, and somebody who maybe is just starting out or like a little more timid and just doesn't like expects the sales to just come, kind of.
I wish I will jump to somebody's booth and help them sell.
Hmm.
I will take their product and walk around with it.
Hmm.
You know, I don't
Not a
worry
lot of
about
people do that. You're
I
pretty nice.
I I've been in food trucks making fried cauliflower.
Oh my gosh.
I've been in booths helping them. If I see a vendor sinking, like if they have that one, I like when they have that
Hmm.
look of like I'm sinking,
Hmm.
like I'm so busy
Yeah.
that I'm just I love that look. I'm just like, you got it? Okay, good. But if they're sinking where they won't be able to manage, I will jump in, I'll expedite, I'll cook, I'll do whatever they need, because I will never ever let one of my vendors sink.
Oh,
Ever.
that's really nice. Sorry, my cat was playing with a plastic bag.
No, it's part of my role. And I can sell anything that they have.
Yeah, because I can
Like
tell you're a natural people person. Like you know how to talk to people, and without being salesy or kind of the things that you were saying. It's really just one of the most useful tactics that I've seen that vendors have is if they see me looking at something, they'll just kind of come up and say, "Oh, this was my inspiration behind making this," or "This is what I was, envisioning this, the sunglasses, for example. Oh yeah, I thought this would look really good with a blue dress or something.
right.
And just kind of telling their story behind it instead of being like, those are $37. We take cash.
Right, right. When it comes to the stickers we have at the booth, I have like on my unapologetically vegan shirt. This is how it started. And
Mhm.
then I gave it to an artist. And then it became much nicer. So I kind of explained that. I'm just like, well, I came up with that because that's important. I also came up with vegan is woke. I have
Mhm.
like a sticker like that because that's super important. And I kind of say that to people, like, I made the shirt in my house. This is something that I do, like, if you want one, I can make one for you. It's like kind of along those lines. So when I'm in the booth, but I can't be in the booth.
Right.
I'm
Um,
doing kind of what you're doing at the festival all day. I'm going vendor to vendor, make sure they're okay, popping to their booths, just making sure, like, fixing any problems that exist. And just I'm constantly walking. Like a festival like Asheville, I'll do 20 plus thousand steps.
yeah.
I'll walk like 8 plus miles
Oh, totally. Yeah.
over the course of the day.
Yeah. When I'm on site, my step count is like off the charts. It's insane.
Oh, it's wild. Where are you located?
I live
Where
in
do you live?
Chicago.
You live in Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I have a friend that's there. A couple of
Oh,
friends that
yeah.
are there. Yes. I want your job.
It's a great city to live, and luckily we have a lot of events on the platform in Chicago, so I'm always keeping busy going to different ones if I'm not traveling, to different parts of the country to go to some of like the larger events that we have. So that's super nice to be able to kind of interact with the vendors local in the city. And
Yeah.
I find a lot of people that I go back to for other stuff in my apartment because they live right here. So I know I've met people and bought a lot of the art that I have on my walls from events, and they gave me their phone number, and I'll text them and say, "Hey, do you have any new paintings, or any new designs that you've printed out?" And they're like, "Yeah, come to my apartment and pick a couple up." And it's like a connection that I never would have made if I didn't go to these events and meet the people there, which is like so nice that as a community we have that option.
That is super cool because it's not just the event producers that's important for event to need to actually talk to the vendors as well, because they can find other festivals or
Yeah.
other events to do by just searching the platform. Because I did it. I went to see like who else locally was using it.
Hmm.
And then I saw, like, you can see what vendors are actually going to those, or I look at my vendor and see like where they've gone, which
Hmm.
is also super cool because somebody can go and be like, well, what is this Veg Fest Expos thing, right? And then they can go find a vendor they know and see that they came to like 4, 5, 6, 7 of my festivals and be like, well, next time I see them, I'm going to ask them about that.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
why do they keep going back?
Right.
Right?
And
Because there has to be a reason. If you
yeah.
consistently come back, like, why do you keep coming back to this person's festivals? And they'll share why.
Yeah, and we actually have a name for it internally. We call it the vendor network tree because they
Oh,
all kind of know each other and talk to each other and, give suggestions and insights, especially like in areas. I didn't know, like in the Southeast, for example, like a lot of the vendors there know each other at least a little bit.
yes. They all
And
know, the all vegan vendors know each other. They all
yeah,
talk.
yeah, exactly.
Yep,
And so they have this little community of people that you can give suggestions of different festivals. And that's why, just bringing it totally full circle here, it's important to have a good relationship with your vendors because they all talk to each other.
exactly. Exactly. And I've like really prided myself on that. And after like my Columbia festival, I had somebody comment on social media, which is the devil and the angel at the same time. It's a real love hate. And this was definitely a hate moment. And somebody said something that was pretty mean, about how I don't treat my vendors well. And it's like the furthest thing from the truth.
Yeah, from everything you've told me, it seems like you treat them extremely well and like better than the average event organizer. Not saying that the average event organizer treats their vendors poorly, but you definitely
Right.
go above and beyond, it
I
seems like.
coddle.
Yeah.
I do. I know who my late sign uppers are, and I know who to I take care of, and they take care of me. So understand, at the festival they're handing me stuff left and right. I don't go home empty-handed usually. They're like, "Oh, you're hungry? Here." I'm
Yeah.
like, "Thank you," because I don't eat. So I have
Yeah.
to feed my team afterwards. So I'm either purchasing or being given food, and I try to buy stuff as I need it from everybody. But yeah, I learned who that vendor was. And what's today? Wednesday? I'm
Mhm.
gonna see them on Friday.
Oh,
So I'm gonna have a conversation in
yeah, I'm sure you'll
person.
have a couple of choice words for them.
Well, I'm going to. I'm gonna make sure that there's an understanding that I did exactly what I referred to earlier. I had too much of a certain of their type of vendor at the festival, and I said, don't sign up.
Right.
They did anyway.
Well, you told them not to. It's like, at
Yes.
least you had the foresight to do that. A lot of event organizers wouldn't say that. They'll say, I'll take your application fee happily. Like, thank you for the $50. And we have too many vendors here, so try again next year.
Right. And this was over 300.
Oh my
And
God.
I said no. I said
Yeah.
don't. I said we're full. I had like a 40 vendor wait list.
Mhm.
The spot that was open on the map, it was before Eventity, it was with MapD.
Mhm.
And the spot that was on the map was specifically slated for savory food.
Mhm.
And I was more than aware of my vendor map was, and they went and they just signed up. And I was like, I told you not to sign up. He was
Yeah.
like, well, I thought you were mistaken. There was an open booth. And I was like, how am I
Yeah.
mistaken?
How would you be mistaken? You put every booth there yourself.
I'm like, I'm managing this whole thing. What do you think? I mean, I specifically said there's too many of you. And then I said, I'll just let it ride.
Mhm.
And then they asked for a refund. And I was like, no problem. But now that vendor is saying derogatory things because I tried to do the right thing by them.
Right. And then they're like, I didn't sell anything at your event. It's like, okay, well,
Well, you didn't come.
yeah.
So now they won't come, right? So now they wrote something publicly that was not nice, and I figured out who it was, and I'm very happy that I'm going to be able to have that conversation on
Yeah.
Friday. That's super important
Yeah,
because it's my
definitely.
business, it's my reputation, and I I I I don't do that.
Yeah.
And I'm not always nice because I'm just not, but I overall I am.
Yeah.
So, and business wise, I will do the right thing. I will always do the right thing.
Yeah, and that's what's most important. I think being nice is subjective. Nobody's nice all the time, 100%. And I think what's most important is doing the right thing. And most of the time, that means that somebody's going to be upset. And I think that's how you know that you are actually doing the right thing. Instead of, people pleasing can only get you so far trying to make everybody happy. Most of the time, especially with events where there's so many moving parts, it just gets you in a bigger mess than you started out with.
And
And
I try. I mean, I succeed for the most part. I do try to make as many people happy as possible. I try attendee wise, after an event, it used to be after an event, like all the hate would come out, everything they hated about the event. Why wasn't this like this? Why wasn't this like that? And thankfully, it's not been as bad the last, 5 years or so. The after certain cities are worse than others, and you're just like, do you realize that there's a person behind this?
right,
Like there's people who put this on and you're like shitting all over it.
right,
And you know what it does? It doesn't make me want to come there again.
right,
So
exactly.
many times it's like you do it. Because the reason I have so many festivals is people did it and went, no.
Mhm.
No, give it to Helene. She'll do it. That's why I have them. Because people
Yeah,
tried and went, no, this is a lot of work. It's a lot
yeah,
of work.
yeah. You're like the Vanderbilt of Southeast vegan festivals. You're just taking everybody over.
And that's funny because I just got a message last night asking me to go to Gatlinburg, Tennessee and do like a foodie festival. I was like, no. I was I no. They reached out to me already, their convention center.
Mhm.
I just I'm like, I'm scaling back.
Yeah,
Just can't.
definitely. Well, oh no, Karen, stop that. She was trying to like peek her head over top of the computer.
Oh, that's adorable.
Where was I? Oh, so to kind of wrap it up before our video editor literally murders me. So long with so many pauses in it. Um, I wanted to ask you, what are some things, I know you're scaling back, and that could be the thing that you're excited about for the future, but what are some things that you're excited about for the future of Veg Fest? And, 5 years from now, where do you hope to see the, festival group?
Something has to give, I believe. I don't know if it's all festival community, but I do know that it's the vegan festival community for vendors and for attendees. I think people are bored.
Right.
I feel like the events have to morph into something else. As to what that something else is, I'm trying to figure that out right now. That will happen probably more next year, because this year's already set in motion. But next year I can start playing with things, and maybe in the fall I can play with things. But I just, if something doesn't change, then I I don't know if they'll last. I really don't know, because veganism in itself, because I know one of the partners is vegan, and Jennifer's vegan. Vegan sales are down, and it's like even more important that people are aware of the impact on the planet and the animals and on your health. That going away from that, people went towards it during COVID, and people are now pulling away from it. It's kind of like big car, small car, big car, small car, right? Like really shouldn't have a huge Hummer type vehicle because it's not good for the planet. That hasn't changed, but we kind of ebb and flow towards, insanity and then back to sane. It seems that we're going away from something that's super important for our health and even more important for saving the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the festivals are. The festivals are there to help show how easy it is to eat vegan, because vegan food's the gateway drug to veganism.
Mm-hmm.
To eat vegan, to see products that you're like, you can't tell when you walk into the festival, you don't know it's vegan.
Mm-hmm.
The food, the products, everything. You have no idea. You can buy soap, you can buy shampoo, you can buy shirts, you can buy, pretty much, vegan honey. I mean, there's everything.
Mm-hmm. What is vegan honey? Sorry, that's off topic, but I'm just
Oh no, it's like Big Fields. They're out of Greenville, South Carolina. He has not sunflower, dandelion honey made
Oh,
from dandelions.
how do they do that? Sorry, we can talk about this later.
I know, no,
I'll
and
Google it.
it's really good. Like it's super good, and
Uh,
they're real again. Like it's how much I love the vendors. Really, when you make a product that's amazing and the people behind it are amazing, it makes the product even better. These are
right.
wonderful people.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he should be in Asheville working on that. But I have to like literally in the middle of trying to figure out how to change this so that it's better for the vendors, it's better for me, and it's better for the attendees. I
Right.
don't know exactly what that looks like, except for the fact that I keep walking around these outside events going, I need to move it back indoors,
Mm.
because this weather thing is there's global warming and climate change, and that's why I do the festivals.
Yeah.
And it's warm or it's wet or it's unseasonably anything
Mm.
that's killing me.
Right.
It just kills everything. So if it's too hot, they don't come. If it's too wet, they don't come. If it's too cold, they don't come. If it's too windy, they don't come. I'm like, people just come.
Yeah.
And then what is it that's going to bring them out? Getting back to education, it seems that people want to be educated again because they were over-educated during COVID. And
Mhm.
when they came back out, they didn't want anything to do with education. They just wanted to eat,
Yeah.
right? And party and eat. And now I'm hearing more rumblings of having speakers, having people that show us how to do things, cooking demos, that type of stuff. We already do like a vegan mac and cheese cook-off annually. Maybe do some other type of event. I want to do a foodie minded event. That's what I'm thinking for 2025. I have three, four, five dates set for 2025 already. And one of them is slated to be 100% a foodie type, whatever I come up with type thing.
Mhm.
And and I don't know the answer. I just know that things are changing and they're not changing for the better, and they need to, because what the public's going to see is that favorite t-shirt person that you always see who you love is going to shut up shop.
Mhm.
Because as he says, it used to be he knew he can go to a festival and he come out with a certain amount of money. It's not the case anymore.
Right.
And there's only so much we can raise our prices when it's costing us more to make the products.
Right.
and of course, like food trucks, cost of food truck food is the same as going out to eat now.
Hmm.
And going out to eat is now increased higher than what we used to pay to dine.
Right.
And people don't seem to understand
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
So you see those prices, but also it leaves people in a quandary when they go to a festival, they have to commit.
Right.
They want to eat all this food, but it's 25, 30, $35 for that one truck.
Right.
And if they buy that food, that's probably all they're going to eat that day.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of money.
Yeah. It's a very
So,
delicate balance for sure, especially with inflation and economic changes. And it can be hard to balance that.
and it's hard for the people working in that truck, the owners of that truck are frustrated because they see their sales kind of dwindling and they're just more frustrated because the cost of their goods is going higher and higher and they can't raise their prices anymore.
Right.
Oh, it's so hard. There's so many things. And I just said people don't understand is and I don't know if everyone thinks about these. I don't know if everyone has conversations with their vendors like I do. My vendors talk dollars and cents with me, tell me what their profits are, tell me what their costs are. I don't think that's normal.
Hmm.
They just throw numbers at me. I understand. I'll do anything I can to help them. I think that's partially why I'll give them advice. I do marketing. I can run a business. But man, we live in a world right now that is like super strange. It's never existed before.
Hmm.
And people still want to have fun and go out and do things. But they're probably more particular as to where they'll spend and
Right.
where they'll spend their time. And if the weather's weird or funky, you know, do I wait till next year? Do I travel like to the next state and go to that one? Do I travel to the next town and go to that one?
Mhm.
I don't know. I guess I have a lot of unknowns, but like I said, I do have plans for 2025. I do have dates on the books, and I'll be excited for that because I think I'll have more time to grow those cities. I'm going to have a lot of upset people because of cities I'm not going to go to. And then sometimes it guilts me into going, but I need to stand my ground because
Yeah.
if I do this, that's what I said to my friend who wrote to me about Gatlinburg. If I do it, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna just completely stop. And that's not gonna help anybody.
Yeah. And I
Me
think
financially or anybody else.
exactly. And I think being able to change with the times in this way that you're describing and, adjust to whatever the economic situation is in the area, and the way that it's changed over the past few years is one of the most important things to kind of make an event successful in the longevity and not just in the times where there's, an economic boom like we saw post-COVID. Everybody wanted to go out and spend money again. Now, inflation is rising and money is tighter for people, and being able to pivot to work in that kind of environment is, I think, what distinguishes, a staple community event from something that, people had fun with a couple years. And it sounds like you're doing a really good job, and it is very tough, and making those hard decisions is very, difficult, but it sounds like you're persevering really well, which is nice to see.
I'm trying. It's the motivation factor is super hard, and I'm pretty honest about it and pretty transparent. I mean, I don't just put on a smiley face and be like, everything's great. No, everything isn't
Yeah.
great.
Well, that's
Financially,
good.
things need to get better and for everybody. And I I need people, I need attendees to understand that because a lot of them are like $5 plates or free food or free stuff. And I'm like, there is no free.
Yeah.
There is no free anymore. And there's no value in free either.
Yeah, definitely.
So I used to give away swag bags. Swag bags are now $15.
Yeah. And, that's just kind of, that's the situation. And it can feel so new to us all the time because for a lot of us, experiencing, changes in the economy happen over the course of years. And it can be hard to remember, what things used to be like. But then looking at the broader scheme, you can see, this stuff is not really new. It just hasn't happened for a while. And I think that that's an important thing for a lot of attendees to remember, that, you know, something that was, you know, free 4 years ago, maybe won't be free now. Maybe it will be free again in 8 years. It's just the way that everything cycles and the way that the economy moves. And I'm so glad that we're touching on this, because we don't often talk about economy and financials in the podcast, but I think it's so important for young event organizers or people who are just starting out to really understand how the economic system in whatever community you're serving really impacts the way you run your events, and how important it is to pivot with that so that your event can have that longevity within the community while serving the people that, you know, you created it for. And so I'm really glad that we're touching on this. And to kind of, you know, just wrap it up, put a nice little bow on everything. What advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out, given all the challenges that you've mentioned and the positive aspects that you've mentioned about, you know, your work planning Triangle Veg Fest? What are some crucial pieces of advice that you would give to somebody who's trying to start an event in their community?
When I started, I wrote to a friend in New York and I said, hey, his name is Demetrius. And I said, hey, I want to start a vegan festival where I live. And he said, one sec. He said, there's a vegan festival in Charlotte coming up. You need to go. You need to talk to the vendors. You need to go meet them and ask them to come. Will they come? Would they come? Talk to them. I've been doing that for 10 years.
Wow.
I went to Vegas. I came out with a vendor who now sponsors the events whenever he comes. I mean, that's just, no one can sell my festivals better than I can, because it's my passion.
Mm-hmm.
That comes through to the vendors. First year is super hard, man. They're going to say, how many people? And you're going to say, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I had a gut feeling. I said, my goal is 1,000 people. And they look at you sometimes like, not right.
Right.
Well, we blew that away. Right? That was my passion, is like, let's make the community wanted it. But you kind of have to, it's work. It's relationship building. You can't do without it. Another thing that we need to touch on is diversity. The festivals need to look like the cities that they're in. If my festivals look like a white woman put on a white person festival, I didn't do my job.
Right.
I'm in multicultural cities,
Mm-hmm.
and it's super important to me that the people who come and my vendors represent the cities that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
And they do. And that makes me really happy, because in veganism is about intersectionality. So it's about, helping everybody, and not just me. And some of the festivals have that problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a good thing. I had to learn that lesson. I had to learn that lesson in like 2016.
Mm-hmm.
If you have educational speakers, make sure they're diverse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can talk for hours upon hours, and I get on the phone with newbies and I have so much information. It's not written down anywhere. It's all in my head. 10 years of doing this.
Yeah.
There will be mistakes that you'll make. I can tell you when I made them. There's still mistakes that are made, less than there were in the early years.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the other thing. Find a mentor, get on the phone with somebody and talk to them. Don't use them. Don't ask them to do things for you, because that's also happened. Don't ask them for their vendor list.
Mm-hmm.
You get to build your own.
Mm-hmm.
If they're so generous to give it to you, that's right. If they offer it, take it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask for it.
Right.
I spent 10 years building mine. I don't give it away.
Right.
So there's so much. And care about the people, pay attention to who's signing up, be organized, and be proactive. The event day is not the day to fix the problems. Getting to the event day, you do everything you can to get there. And then those things that pop up
Mm-hmm.
that you didn't know about or happen, you deal with them. But everything to get you to that day is done ahead of time. So that day, that first festival in 2014 had 0 issues. None. 0.
Wow.
And that's incredible. Like incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't, that was the first one. So from there, I kind of just keep doing that. Communication
Mm-hmm.
with your vendors, a lot of it. a lot and over and over and over and over and over. They don't read.
Right.
So you have to send them the same information over and over and over and over because, and then they'll show up and you'll know who didn't read.
Yeah.
And I start at this point, some of them I needle. They didn't
Yeah.
read. And
Yeah.
they know it's a trigger for me not reading my emails. There's so much important stuff in there. Give them everything you can, everything that you can share with them, share it. There's no oversharing. They need all the information because if you do that, it's going to set you apart from pretty much everybody else because nobody does that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, I was so many. There's so much, and I'm available to hire.
Just
That
put it
would be
out there.
something that would work.
Yeah.
It is. I'm available to hire.
Yeah. Well, I think that this podcast episode is going to be a great starting point for anybody who's trying to start their own event. There's so many insights on here that I think will be super helpful for people. So thank you so much once again for joining us. And I can't wait to get this episode out.
Oh, thank you, Kat. I really appreciate it. VegFestExpos.com is where you'll find all the information about what we do and how to donate, how to sign up as a vendor, and how to get tickets as an attendee.
Awesome. Perfect. And yeah, in the description, we will link you guys in the description of our podcast and our YouTube videos and everything so people can easily find you guys and get some more information.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so, so much. Have a great rest of your day. I know this took a little longer than I planned. I hope I didn't take up too much of your time.
No, I have a meeting in 4 minutes. It's perfect.
Oh,
I have a
all
team
right.
meeting with my team, which is going to be a complete opposite of this. So
Awesome. We'll take a quick drink of water and get to your next meeting, and I will talk to you later. Thanks so much.
I'll send you the recording if I have it, if you don't.
Awesome. Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Bye.
Bye.